I can talk now.
So say hi, everybody. Over here is the chat, and you can see what people are typing.
Yeah, can we make it a little bigger?
Well, that I don't know how to do.
Uh,
You can go like that.
yeah, I can go like that. It's not
Well,
necessarily
you're
bigger.
live, so
Yeah. Hello, everybody. I wanted to bring a little Christmas cheer in, and I am like a little elf, just to try to make everybody a little more holly jolly for Christmas and or Hanukkah or even the winter solstice or whatever your specific celebration is for this season. And so I don't know, maybe I'm a little bit like Santa's elf. Yeah, the writing is very small, so I may get a little closer so I can read what this says to answer any questions. So I have to look at the up here.
Want me to try changing the resolution?
Yeah, maybe change the resolution because it's and I want to get back up to the top. I don't want to miss any important. Oh, now look at that.
Hey.
Yeah, that's all we had to do. Oh, this is so much better. Okay, so I'm going to go up to the top.
Well, up at the top is me rambling.
Okay, let's get past Ken's rambling here. So what are you? You're Colossal Cave?
No, DJ's Colossal Cave.
Yes,
and
okay.
I'm on as
Okay.
Ken.
Yeah, this is our first. This is like our first actual like podcast. So we're gonna be a little bit casual here, a little bit more than we should be.
Bottom.
But let's see.
Do you see the blue arrow?
Now, let's see. You are, where do you?
I was strictly talking. I wasn't.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there's some questions for you too, Ken.
No, I answered all those.
Oh, you did?
Go to the bottom of the chat and just start going.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Yes. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, everybody. And let's see. There's a question from Brett. King's Quest III was such a work of art. The narrative was a big departure from the first two King's Quest games. What inspired that dramatic change? Well, thank you for that, Brett. I appreciate it. For me, it was I was delving a bit more into probably harder puzzles and a little bit more drama and a little bit more of almost maybe actual storytelling with King's Quest 3. And it was oh gosh, I can't remember the name. Somebody remind me that the Disney movie with Mickey Mouse and the sorcerer and I mean, I'm getting old, I just, some of these things, but where Mickey Mouse was like a apprentice for this kind of evil sorcerer, and that movie, which was more in many ways more about music, I think, than like a real story, but it was about a sorcerer or an apprentice at living with a sorcerer, and how the apprentice, which was Mickey Mouse, had to learn how to do his own magic spells in order to escape from the sorcerer, or do away with the sorcerer. So I kind of took that movie. Somebody down here, that was Fantasia. Yes, Fantasia. I knew somebody would know that. Yes, that was. I took that Fantasia as sort of my the kind of the map, the road map or whatever for King's Quest 3, because I like that idea of an apprentice to an evil sorcerer, and I made him to be the son of King Graham, and which was another way for me to add to the family and to grow the family of King Graham in Daventry, and that was a way that I did that. But I loved doing thinking up all these different spells that he could do Alexander, he could do that, and just to try to think of all the weird objects you could get to create spells, and so that was really fun for me. So thank you. Let's see. It's okay. Well, thank you. That I love it. I greatest Christmas gift ever. Well, that's really nice for you to say. I'm having a lot of fun, and just yeah, I love talking to my fans out there, and that's always great. And well, happy to answer about King's Quest 3 Briggs family law. That is how that worked out, how I did that. Um, let's see what we else we have here. Thank you. The Christmas hat. I love this. Isn't this cute? I saw it on Etsy, and I just had to have it. So we're going to have family over on Christmas, and I'm probably going to be wearing it all day long. Just you try to get a little bit of Christmas cheer out there. So thank you. I happen to not be in, I wish I could say that that Ken and I are in the snow and winter, but we actually happen to be here in the Palm Springs area. And yesterday it was 80 degrees. Today was a little cooler. It was probably about 75. But I still was able to wear shorts when I went out shopping for some of my Christmas um, food that I'm gonna be. We're gonna have a lot of people here, and we're gonna have a big dinner, and and getting all the snacks, and and everything. We're gonna have 10 people, and we're gonna have 6 dogs because we're Ken and I are real big into dogs. We have 2 of them ourselves, and so others said, "Can we bring our dogs?" And I said, "Well, of course you can." So let's see. What else do we have? Is Manannan based on Yensid? I have to admit I don't know what or what Yensid is. So probably not. Let's see. Do I put myself in any of my games? Not really. I've always kind of stayed out of it, but I will say that on Colossal Cave, this game that we are now trying to promote and hope that people play and love it. I'm a voice. At the very end of the game, I'm not going to say too much, but at the end of the game, you'll start getting an inkling, a very strong inkling about what's really going on in this cave. And I play the voice of a character that you will meet at the end of the game. And so that that's that's about all that I've done as far as putting myself in any of my games. Let's see what else we have. Let's see from Brazil. Hello, Brazil. Um, I'm thinking about going there and traveling there maybe in a year or two on our boat. This boat you see behind me is not. We have a different boat now, but we are big boaters. That is something that we also do besides computer games. That we do love boating, and we do tend to go a long ways crossing oceans. Let me see. Well, it's my pleasure, North. Um, I know I've heard many times that I was part of their childhood, and I have made kind of a smug little joke. Like I sometimes I think I'm a mother of a lot of kids, many of them, most of them who are grown up and probably have their own kids now. But thank you. Let's see what else we have here. Did the author Agatha Christie inspire you to write Mystery House? Yes, definitely. And also the board game Clue. That is, I loved the board game Clue. That was just my favorite. And my imagination would just go wild. And, I was a kid, and I would just think about, how I could, if I could get into the board game, how I could make it into a real game with where I could feel like I'm meeting these people and actually solving an actual murder mystery. So yes, Agatha Christie and the game Clue was what inspired me for Mystery House. What really inspired me though to do Mystery House was Colossal Cave, which is why Ken and I worked on it and did this game because Colossal Cave was the very first computer game I ever played. I had no idea I had any talent to create things like this. I played it and became obsessed with it, and I solved every single thing in it. I got every single point, and I just wanted to do more of it. And I just sat down and I designed Mystery House. It just came right out of my head, and I did it, and it was a big hit. Ken programmed it, and I did the beautiful art, which it wasn't so beautiful, but I never said am an artist. I'm not. But that's why we went down back to do Colossal Cave, because we kind of circle back to the beginnings, and it's sort of to honor this game Colossal Cave, because I tell you, none of us would be here. There would have been no Sierra. There would have been no King's Quest or Mystery House or anything had I not played that game. That game, Colossal Cave, the text version way back, 1980. It revealed to me what I could do. I had no idea I had this in me, and it just flowed out. So there's probably sort of a natural thing there going on. Uh, One of my favorite stories from the adventures with Ken on the boat. Oh, there's some that were scary, and there are some that are awesome. I would say, one of my favorite stories from the adventures that Ken and I have had on our boat is we did cross the Bering Sea along the Aleutian Islands. That was in 2009. And we found out that there was a lot of World War II adventures to have on the Aleutian Islands. That there was actually, um, I think that I don't want to say anything that's not exactly true, but there was action on the Aleutian Islands with the Japanese, and they were trying to get onto the Aleutian Islands because then they could get close to Alaska, and then get close to Alaska to the United States. And we found one of the islands that was not inhabited. There was a, oh, don't ask me the kind of airplane. Ken could tell you that probably. And he wrote a book about our travels across the Bering Sea and over to Siberia. We actually went there to get fuel in our boat to Russia and then down to Japan. He wears pictures of us. But anyway, there was a crash of one of our planes. But it wasn't a very bad crash in a sense, because the plane was still intact, and I believe that the pilot or pilots were did not die. I think they were saved. I think. But we crawled all over that plane. I mean, it was just there by itself on this uninhabited Aleutian island, and we climbed up and we were on the wing of it, and us and the crew people that were with us on our boat. Normally, Ken and I would travel the world on our boat, just him and I. We were the crew, but in the case of crossing the Bering Sea, we had people with us, guys, to help us out. And so that what I would say would be one of my favorite stories. Let's see. Yeah, the Black Cauldron was swept under the carpet by Disney. I think that's because it didn't do very well as a movie for them. However, we did the Black Cauldron as a game. I worked with Disney on that, and along with Al Lowe. So that was kind of an Al Lowe and Roberta Williams game, working with Disney. And our game did actually pretty well. The movie, not so much. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, the fully drawn Black Cauldron map in the Strong Museum of Play. Yeah. I think they have some other of our maps. I gave the Strong Museum in, I think they're in Rochester, New York, a lot of my hand-drawn maps of, because that's how I develop and design an adventure game. Is I just get like a huge piece of paper, not a piece of paper. It's like stronger than construction paper, but just big, and white. But I would go to like a specialized stationery store and have them cut me out big pieces of it so that I had a big blank, almost like a canvas to draw on. And I would have several of them because I would start thinking about how I want to do the game and doing circles and adding my notes and characters and places. I would always think with a, what I wanted it to be, the game it was about, but that could be written in like a paragraph of, what it was about and who you were going to be, your character, and what the goal was. And basically that was kind of it. And I would just start drawing and circles and places and place names and different characters I could add, bad and good, and objects you can use and puzzles, and I would add and draw in and draw in and draw in. And then I would see it as it developed. I would get a feel for it, and almost it's like a flow chart to a certain extent for programming. But if I made mistakes and I didn't like where it was going, I'd throw that piece of paper away and I'd put a new one in and I'd start again. And that's I by the time I was finished, and not one bit of programming had been done yet, or art, nothing, which is me and a big piece of paper. And by the time I was done, there would be a complete map of the game, and I could look at that map and look it over and know exactly every single play, every single everything with notes would be on that game, on that piece of paper, that big piece of paper. And believe it or not, the programming, the art, and everything, and it's me working with other team members, and then music, all of it. Everybody had a smaller version of that map, and they would use it, and that was our Bible, so to speak, our manuscript of the game. Let's see what else we have. Are there any games I imagine that never got released? Yes, yes. I imagined not too many, but I did. I have two in mind, real quick. One was I'm really a big history buff. I love history; it's my favorite subject. Besides, fantasy, I guess you could say. Um, but I really like ancient, really ancient. I mean, like really ancient. So back to ancient, like Neanderthals, and Cro-Magnon men. I always like to think of origins. How did I get here? How did we get here? How did all that happen? And I came up with a game idea for if you were a Cro-Magnon, tribe in a tribe, and you were a Cro-Magnon person, and you kind of came into the area of, a Neanderthal tribe or clan, um, that what kind of issues would there be between you as a Cro-Magnon and the Neanderthals? And I think I kind of trying to remember back. I think that I was thinking in terms of almost a um, Romeo and Juliet kind of thing, where one of you was the Romeo and one was the Juliet, and that you met and you fell in love, and yet these two very different clans. And so I mean that never got done because it just was a little too silly, I guess. But I actually started on writing it, and then another one was going to be a murder mystery, um, kind of like not Phantasmagoria. It was completely different, but it was one of those where it was going to turn into a very scary kind of murder, game, and you were going to play the part of a female who accidentally, was driving her car in a very rural mountainous area and had car troubles in near this very small, very remote town off in the middle of nowhere, and you you were by yourself and you needed help, and they agreed to help you, but then they brought you to the town and said, we'll fix your car, blah blah blah. But it turned out that they were not so great of people, and I knew it wasn't going to be a good group of people, but I never got very far with that story, so we never did that. But I did go ahead with the whole horror and scary idea with Phantasmagoria. My favorite area in Colossal Cave is I mean, they're all different in many different ways. I'd like to say the dragon, uh, but I think maybe the troll area. And we don't see very many pictures of that on some of our promotions and ads, but I'm going to say where you find the troll, and so that would be my favorite area. I do like the Giant's Room. Okay, let's see. Has there been an idea for King's Quest 9 percolating in your mind? Um, yes. And I actually, years ago, I saw somebody had an idea for King's Quest 9 on the internet, and I just felt like saying, what about this as an idea? And I think I wrote to this person. I don't even remember now. It probably can't even be found anywhere. It was like a long paragraph to this person of what if I could do that, this is what it would be. And I did do that, and it's probably out there somewhere if it could be found, but probably can't be. And don't ask me now what it was. It was just a stream of consciousness at the time. No, I have never visited Poland. No, 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 never visited Poland. I got confused for a second. I've been to Czechoslovakia, uh, but and Hungary, but not Poland. I'd love to. Uh, I don't think I'll ever put my game design documents online. So most the strong has so many of our stuff that I actually have very little left. Very little. One thing I do have though that is very personal for me is I have the full um, not folder but notebook of Phantasmagoria. I mean, it's this thick. It's 550 pages. It's the game design and it's the script for the actors and everything, the inventory, all the notes and everything about it. And you go through it and it is just, I think it's priceless, actually. But I do have that. Our careers and livelihoods, if we haven't created Sierra or worked in computer software. Again, we got to go back to a Colossal Cave for that, because had I not played that, I asked myself that what would I have done if I had not played Colossal Cave back in the day, the text game that just obsessed me so much, and it told me, it gave me what I can do. I had no idea that I could do this, but when I finished playing it, I knew I had to create a game like it. Now, it's Mystery House is not like it. I mean, it's not like a cave exploration, but I understood what I was trying to do. I was trying to get like a story and exploration and solving puzzles and like writing an interactive book almost. That's kind of the way I approached the text version of Colossal Cave, is that I was in an interactive book. And so if I hadn't played that, if that, what would I have been? I probably would have still probably gone in and done something with computers. I did know how to program COBOL. I didn't really love doing it. It's not my thing. I knew how to I knew how to operate IBM 360 computers, which were in, big corporations. And I actually did that job for a junior college and also for in Los Angeles for Los Angeles County government. Believe it or not, I actually went in and operated their computers, but again, that was not that creative or anything. So I don't know. I might have done something more in computers. Ken absolutely would have continued to work on computer software. In fact, he was already working on putting um, uh, Fortran computer language on the Apple II. He thought that was going to be our entree into being like Microsoft. Maybe that would have worked. I don't know. Sometimes I kid Ken and say, well, if I hadn't talked you into working on my little game Mystery House, I mean, you might have done better than Bill Gates. Yeah, and then look how, where we could have wind up being. But when I look back, I am glad that we did not do that. I am happy for what we did, and I wouldn't want us to have done anything else but what we did. Well, thank you for lending Neanderthal history. Yeah, me too. I like to. I'm into ancient humans. I really am. I really like to know where we came from, and I'm still thinking these thoughts. I still think about it. And you'd be surprised some of the stuff I read, and I'm not going to tell you because you might think I'm just too weird. Let's see. Do I miss Bass Lake and Forks Burgers? You mean North Fork? Is that where Forks Burgers was? I do, I do. I like rural areas. I do, and the mountains and pine trees and all of that. I do miss it. Yes. Uh, did I have involvement in all the mixed up Mother Goose versions remakes, or was it only the first one? The answer is only the first one. I when I was actually designing games for Sierra, I I basically was always the front first version of everything because we've had remakes of King's Quest and other games. And I was always on to the next first game of whatever it was going to be, or the next iteration of the next King's Quest, or whatever it was, or working with Disney or whatever it was that Sierra would kind of, and that would be like my husband, would tell me what I needed to do next, and I tried to get in the things that I wanted to do and not necessarily be told to do. Um, but I was told, "Yep, it's time to do the next King's Quest," or I guess that was really I started the Laura Bow murder mystery series with Colonel's Bequest because I really, really wanted to do again back to like the Agatha Christie thing, to do that, but I was only able to really do the first one. I actually did not do the second one, the Dagger of Amon Ra. I worked with, I think it's oh, it was Bruce. Uh, I'm sorry. It's been a long time. Uh, I worked with him on his story that he wanted to do with Laura Bow, and so I did bless it, and I was there to answer questions and to kind of you know help him along the way, and I did a lot of QAing on it, so it would come out feeling like a good, like I would think. So but no, but that's one reason why I never did any of the remakes because I was always on to the next one. And actually looking at some of the remakes, even of the King's Quest, I kind of look at them and go, yeah, I I didn't do that. I don't know. I don't know why they said it was this, or I think there was some things added, and some things changed, which is a little weird to think, but yeah. Any involvement in let's see. Yeah, AI animation has gotten really good. That's for sure. That's something Ken and I talk about. He still comes to me and kind of acts like, hey, in fact, he just did. Maybe we should go and do an animated movie, like a game with AI animation. And I was like, are you kidding me? Uh, I mean, with Colossal Cave, it was a lot of work. We spent about almost 3 years on it with during the COVID era, and spent a lot. I mean, it was all our own money. We funded it, and we worked very hard. I mean, once we started it, we were working almost seven days a week for almost, like 2 years at least. It was a lot of work, and we put it on a lot of platforms, and I mean, it was just and then going into the VR, it was a lot of hard work. I'm happy we did it. I'm glad we did it. Made us feel good that we could go back and we could do it. We hadn't been, it'd been 25 years, and do we still have it in us? Could we do it? Well, we did, and we did a great job. So when Ken mentioned it to me, I was like, I don't know, maybe we could write a book or something. Uh, what's something Mask of Eternity had in it you most wish hadn't been included, or something you wanted included that wasn't? Oh boy. Uh, Trying to even think back to that game. When you start talking about King's Quest games and asking me questions, it they all kind of run together in my mind. I mean, you have to think about we're talking about 30 to 40 years ago for the King's Quest. And uh, I know that the only thing so I can't really answer that question, but what I can say that I had wanted to do 3D games, and to do a game in 3D, and we actually that's actually what Colossal Cave is our first pure 3D game. It is pure 3D, which was exciting for me to do. And Mask of Eternity was kind of that was the technology I wanted to develop from King's Quest 7 to King's Quest 8, which was Mask of Eternity. And we did render it. It was rendered all in 3D, but it wasn't 3D the same as Colossal Cave is. Colossal Cave, you move through it. It is first person, so you don't have a little avatar to move around. But that's okay, because you feel like you're moving through, and it is, I mean, you could look up and down and around and behind you, and it is 3D, and that excited me a lot. And in VR, you really feel like you're there. Mask of Eternity, though, even though it was 3D rendered, we computers weren't able to move through a 3D world like that yet. They just weren't powerful enough. So what we did was, even though it was rendered in 3D, we could do any kind of camera angle we wanted, um, because it was a 3D rendered world. So whenever Connor would go a direction, whatever direction, we could change the camera angle, or what he was doing, or we could have close ups or go back, or so we kind of treated it a little bit more like we were doing a movie as far as camera angling. And we did the same thing. That was the same thing we did with Phantasmagoria. No, I don't think I read my King's Quest 9 idea in a video. No, I didn't. With the uptick in horror games and modern games and remasters, if I could do some, what? Wait, with the uptick in horror games in modern games and remasters like Tomb Raider, if you were to do something like something after Colossal, okay, would a horror-esque be an option like a retelling of Shivers? Again, we don't own any of these games that Sierra had like Shivers. So, I mean, we would have, in order to do any of that, we'd have to go to Microsoft. We'd have to ask permission. My guess is, and Ken and I've talked about it, uh, they probably would give us permission, but it wouldn't be like it would be a Microsoft game. So we would be kind of working for Microsoft, and I don't think we would like that, to be like contractors for Microsoft. We like to do our own thing. And when we worked on Colossal Cave, it was us. So it was us, whether it was good or bad, but it was us, and that's the way it was with Sierra. And so just the idea, of going to Microsoft and saying, "Please, can we?" It's not really us. Yeah, Yeah, the Phantas notebook sounds incredible. Yes, yes, it is. It's pretty incredible. It's one of the few things I do have King's Quest 7 notebook too. It's not nearly as thick. The Phantas notebook is, and it's heavy. Um, and it should be in several notebooks, not just this one big heavy one. The King's Quest 7 one is more like, that. um, oh, so Gary Koffler, you're the one that asked about Forks Burgers. Aha. Nice to talk to you, Gary. It's been a long time. Let's see. I've digitized my fair share of notebooks. Uh, yeah, I probably could digitize that thing and sell it. I could probably sell copies of it for a lot of money. I could get rich maybe by selling Phantasmagoria notebook digitized versions. Uh, well, we'll see if we ever, I don't know, if we get, if we start getting a little poor, we'll think about that. Yeah, after Dagger of Amon-Ra, did I plan? I wanted to. I wanted to continue the Laura Bow character myself for a third in the series, but like I said before, I was always told, okay, it's time to go off and do this next game and the next game, and sometimes I had two or three of them going at a time, because and I was working with Disney, or I did also worked with Jim Henson on the Dark Crystal. So, I was always working on something they were giving me to do. And so that's one reason why used a lot of co-designers, because I just couldn't do just one game. Sometimes I would be working on two games, maybe even a third, as a little more remote, looking in on it. But yeah, I would have liked to have done the third one. Absolutely. In fact, I think these days that I would do another low. I would love to do a Laura Bow book, not book, game today. But again, it's Microsoft. Single favorite line from any character. Uh, um, oh, I'm thinking one. Let me come back to that, because I have something in my mind and I put it in Colossal Cave. And well, I'm getting older. This short-term memory, it just kind of goes right out of your head. If I think of it, I'll come back to that. Oh yeah, we were part. Well, I wasn't part of the programming process. Yeah, we had over almost 40 people contracted who worked with us on the Colossal Cave. It was definitely not just Ken and I. It wasn't. We had yeah, almost 40 people, but this was during COVID, so we were all in different places. So Ken and I were at home, or we were on our boat in the summer, literally still working on Colossal Cave. Didn't really go anywhere in the boat, but there we were. And we had programmers, all through, on different parts of the country. We had artists from even different countries that were working and across the country that were working on our art for Colossal Cave. We had sound effects people and programming and gosh, what else ever else. Just yeah, and so I guess my part in it was, since I didn't design this game, that was Colossal Cave was designed by Will Crowther, and later Don Woods was added. So it was an already designed game. Millions of people had already played it, so it was a very well-known game. So I didn't design it, but what I did was my part was to be kind of think like a director. You know, if you're directing a movie, you're directing actors, you're directing. But in my case, I was directing artists and animators for the characters and directing the programmers. You know what I wanted them to do. Ken was also programming. He was mostly working with the programming team, but I would work with them as far as how I wanted the puzzle to work, or the like the dwarves, that there was a lot of we had to really understand Will Will Crowther's mind, in planning how these dwarves and the pirate and the various, it wasn't like the game was timed, um, but how it worked. There was a lot of randomness in Colossal Cave, and it was a timed game, or what do they call it? Turn based. Yeah, it was definitely a turn based game. We had to understand that and go back and like Will Crowther's mind and understand how that worked. And so I worked with the programmers for understanding that the turn-based aspect of it, the randomness. There's just a lot of random. If a dwarf pops up in front of you and throws a knife at you, uh, at the beginning of the game, there's just a 10% chance that the knife is going to get you. But if you do if some things with the dwarf, like talking, for instance, if you try to give the dwarf some food, because you can carry some food around with you, if you try to give a dwarf some food when he pops up in front of you before he throws a knife, um, when he throws, it makes him mad. And you're told this by the narrator because they dwarves only eat coal, and you try to give him food, makes him mad, and when he throws that knife, that it goes up to a 20% chance it's going to kill you. And then there's another way that you can make him mad, which I don't remember right now, and then it goes up to 30% chance. But you don't know that, you're just playing the game. And so yeah, so I worked with the programmers on that, but Ken basically didn't work with the programmers, but both him and I were working with all of them all of the time. Method or technique to boost creativity, is there natural? Do I ever suffer from writer's block? No, never. I never actually have. I have a very prolific imagination. I mean, I always have. I remember being a little girl and laying in bed at night, and I always would have trouble going to sleep, but then I didn't want to get up in the morning, so I'm definitely a natural night owl. But I would lay in bed at night and tell myself stories, uh, that to pass the time. Literally, I'd be 9 years old, 8 years old, 10 years old, 15 years old, telling myself stories to pass the time till I go to sleep. And so I think that was obviously teaching me how to create stories. So no, I have a million and one stories. Yes. Have I ever considered doing a let's play of your games? Well, I just did that with Colossal Cave, and it's going to be on YouTube. So, where I started playing it, and I've been sort of thinking about serializing it. I don't know. We'll have to see. People watch watch the first part of what I just played. It was about a little over an hour's worth of play, but a lot of that was I was explaining the interface. But going on to play the game, I wouldn't do that. But we'll see if it's popular on YouTube. I might serialize it and play another, hour and then another hour and then another hour, and I might do that. We'll have to see if it's popular. Yeah, I know, I know. I don't need Microsoft. Just name her Barbara Lowe. I get it. I get it. We've talked about that, and we know we could do that, but it still wouldn't be Laura Bow, because you can't be, you got to be a little, you can't just change the name. You got to be a little better about that than a little more remote. But there's something to be said about that. Uh, did I have any input for Phantasm, the Sega Saturn port of Phantasmagoria? I have. Mm, I don't know. I don't even know what your what that is. Honestly, not to disappoint everybody out there, Ken and I are not real game players. I always said in interviews that it's more fun for me to design a game or work on a game, to develop a game, than to play a game. In fact, when I used to design my games, no matter which game it was, I I always had an outline of what it was going to be. It was very loose. But when you get into the nitty gritty of actually getting into the meat and potatoes of the game, I honestly did not know how it was going to turn out. When puzzles would come in, or, oh, that's a good, yeah, and how this game was going to have this puzzle here and something else there, or a character, or if I had dialogue. I, I very often did not know what the dialogue would be when I did Phantasmagoria, and we had actors playing the characters. I that was my I mean, I've done dialogue before, on the games, but they were much more simple. With Phantasmagoria, this was an actual script, and the story was very, fleshed out. It was a big story, and so the actors had to do dialogue, and we probably had too much dialogue, to be honest with you. If I was to go back in, I would have shortened some of that, but got a little carried away. But I honestly, when I would write their dialogue, I knew generally what they were going to say, but what came out of their mouths, I had no idea until after I had written it. And I began, as I went through the game and would do that, they began to take on their own persona in my head as I would write for Adrian, the character that you play. I I didn't know how. I knew that she would say things in a certain way or not, because I knew her personality in my mind began to take shape. And I began to know what kind of how she would react to things, or how she would sound, or what she would say. And the same thing with the other characters. But mainly for Adrian, I really got the sense of who she was. And I would be very surprised. I would write what she was saying, and I would go, "Oh, wow, that was good." Yeah, I didn't know. It was kind of interesting. Let's see. I don't know, a game where me and Ken and our dogs drive around solving mysteries. I don't think so. No, we're not that interesting. And anyway, we're too old. I think we're about to the end here, so I've got a couple more questions, and I think we're about done. Yes, aspects underrated of Sierra, or maybe underrated. I don't know if it's underrated, of Sierra's success putting designers' faces on game boxes and Interaction Magazine. That was Ken's idea. Ken is a great marketer. He was a great programmer too, but he's a great marketer. And he understood that just like with books, you have your book authors that you like. If you like a book by an author, you want to maybe buy the next book and the next book by the same author, because you know that they're a good writer and you know their work. And he thought, and of course that started with me because we were just him and me at the beginning. And so I think because it was just him and I as a couple, it sort of started that way with, and it, especially with me as the face of Mystery House and then the Wizard and the Princess. And it just seemed to work. And Interaction was kind of like we're a family, folksy, and in the woods and that kind of thing. And it appealed to people. And so it just made sense, like authors of books, to have the designer be the face. And this is mostly for our adventure games, really, because they're just much more story oriented than many of the other Sierra games that we had. And there were many. We didn't only do adventure games, but especially for the adventure games, it worked really well. And what worked also for us is to have the designer be the the director, that what the director, the designers want, they're the last word on the game. They were the ones that directed it, and no programmer or artist or anybody else could make a change in that game without going through the designer. So the designers were literally their game, and it worked well because the designers were very, they cared a lot about the game. They knew what they wanted it to be. So it was not a design by committee, and I think a lot of games today are designed by committee. And I, even movies today are still, you see that's script writer, the director, and maybe both of them work together very closely. I don't think I don't think movies would work well if they were really designed by committee. Too many cooks spoil the broth. And I think that, not that there's a problem with computer games or video games today, but they're getting awfully big and awfully complicated and bigger and levels and just, I don't know, just having a smaller game that you could play, you can get back into the mind of the designer, maybe slower paced, and you don't always need to have other people with you in the game or meeting them. I mean, I just don't know that you need that, but that's, I'm old fashioned, so what can I say? No, we don't get recognized that much. We used to more than we do now. The weirdest place we've crossed paths with fans. Well, I'm going to go ahead and say this. We were in France, and we went onto a beach in France. There, I don't know about now today, but this was back in the day. So this was 35 years ago, um, something like that. We went. It was, topless beach, because that's kind of way France was then. Now, I don't know if they're still that way, but they were then. And I was not topless, before anybody gets too excited. I'm sure Ken was try to have me be topless, but I was not. Um, but we were just walking along, and some people came up and said we're big fans, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, I looked at Ken, like, where can we go, just have some privacy. And I certainly was thinking, I'm glad that I have my bathing suit top on, but that would be maybe one of the weirdest places. See, and I think our my son is is in on this, listening. He may be red cheeked right now. Let's see, and now it seems like more questions are coming in. They're yeah, cause see, I'm trying to get to the end here. Yeah, oh, there's another person who still lays in bed too long, imagining stories. Yes, yes, I know what that's like. Oh, Gary Koffler, how do you know we have to get ready for Barry Manilow charity event? That's where we do have to go tonight. So I may have to say goodbye pretty soon. He's Thank you, Gary, for reminding me. Yes, that is true. We do have a very expensive tickets for Barry Manilow here in Palm Springs, and it is a charity event, so we're happy to do that. And anyway, I think I'm ready. All I have to do is, I could even probably take this with me. I could wear it. Baby on the way, child raising advice. Well, it's been a long time. I'm still waiting on grandchildren. I'm hoping one day. Let's see. I don't know how to say. What I would say is stay together if you can. You know, I am of the belief that children need two parents. It could be I you know not necessarily a father and a mother, but I think two parents. It's really hard to raise a child by yourself, especially if you are also the breadwinner. So for me, I would say stay married if you can, uh, whoever you are, and if there are two of you, and raise those kids, because it's too hard. And when they become teenagers, it gets harder, and they need a lot more. They need structure, and having both of you around helps a lot. And always give them love. Let them know you love them. But keep always know where they are and what they're doing. Do that. And even though Ken and I are in the computer world, and have been, I personally, and you may not believe this, but I don't think I would not give a phone to my kids if I had them today. I actually, in a way, I thank God that my kids were grown up, long grown up. We had our kids very young. Ken and I was 20 and Ken was 19 when we had our first son. So we had him very young, and I'm glad that they were not in the iPhone and the smartphone era and social media and all that. So they turned out pretty darn good. Um, I would not, if I had a baby today, and this is just me. You asked, is I would not give my child, or allow my child to have their own iPhone, or I say iPhone because I have an iPhone, or smartphone, until at least 14 or 15 years old. And just make it a rule. And I know they say, but the other kids, I get that. And I also know that, parents like to keep track of them. So I would say for that, do one of those, walkie-talkie, there's some of those walkie-talkie type, they're almost like phones. There's one, rapid radio. That's one. You can give that to your younger children, and keep in track with them with with
We
rapid
gotta go,
radios,
Bert.
and they love it. It's like using the old walkie-talkies. I know we got to go. It's been fun talking to you. We could go on there, keep asking, and I wish I could, but thank you so much for caring enough about being here for me. And I want to wish all of you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy Hanukkah, a wonderful winter solstice, or anything else that you're all doing. So I'm not sure how to get out of this. I'll have Ken come over here. Right now, he's looking at his phone. Kenneth? Do I just exit away? See, I've never done this before. This is my first time. I don't want to just leave.
I'll do it. I'll shut it
He's
down.
coming. Okay, here he is. Bye, everybody. It was fun.
Thank you, everyone. I hate to break this up because she was just kind of getting rolling, and I thought it was getting funner. But hopefully, this is the beginning of we'll do this again, and hopefully, everyone's going to have a wonderful Christmas. And let's see, what else could I say other than goodbye and Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy everything, Happy holidays, and see you next time. Thank you.